Welcome back. I did talk about Nigerians making us proud across the world, and one of them is right here in our studios. And let's bring him in on the program. Mr. Toks Omishakin is the Secretary of Transportation in the state of California, United States. Yeah. Toks, is that okay to call you that?
Of course. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning and welcome to, when I say welcome to Nigeria, because you've been here over and over and over again.
I have, quite a few times.
You know, so people, so when we see Nigeria, for the records, I'm sure you know we like to claim our own. Wherever we hear our names, for instance, now the World Cup is going, including the United States, where I think they are playing in LA stadiums and
That's right.
St. Clara also. Yeah. There are two stadiums, so we have our very own Balogun playing for the United States. We have about 16 Nigerians across different Nigerian heritage playing across different nationalities, including the United States. And we're making, well, Nigeria is well represented. But welcome. Talk to us about the experience has been being a Nigerian and occupying where you're occupying as a Secretary of Transportation in the state of California. Let's just get to know you first, and then we can explore the conversation deeper.
Sure. But by the way, I love how you started off the conversation with so many Nigerians representing so well across the globe, because very often, sometimes what you hear about Nigerians are, you know, the shortcomings, the stories of where we possibly fell short in one way or the other. So to hear about the successes is just something that's pretty heartwarming. I saw Balogun, and my son's a big soccer player back in the U.S., and he was very proud of the fact that he had two goals in a match, the first U.S. match. So very proud of our accomplishments around the world. So for me, it's been an incredible journey. God's blessed me with tremendous opportunity in serving in government in the United States. I've been working in government for almost 25 years now in the U.S. I currently serve, as you mentioned, as the Secretary of Transportation for the state of California. I was appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom to this role in February of 2022. Prior to that, in September of 2019, I served as the Director of Transportation, which is a different role than Secretary of Transportation. In this job, it's the most, it's the most vast responsibility in transportation other than the Secretary of Transportation for the U.S. government. So other than that post, this is the next largest post in transport in the U.S. It has roughly 45,000 people and staff, a budget of about $35 billion, oversees more than 50,000 miles of highways that we're responsible for maintaining, operating, and building. But we also have to partner and lead several other transportation organizations in the state. We have 12 seaports, more than 250 airports, more than 300 transit agencies in the state. So it's a huge responsibility for a state of 40 million people, and we now have a GDP of roughly 4.3 trillion.
That's bigger than that of Africa, by the way.
That's correct. Africa's GDP is roughly 3 trillion.
3 trillion, yeah.
Roughly. And the state of, almost said the continent of Africa. I almost said the continent of California. The state of California's GDP is larger than the continent of Africa, and it is approximately roughly the same size as the GDP of South America. So we're not just competing with states or countries, we're the size of continents as far as our GDP goes. Just impressive what the state's been able to do, especially over the last 20 years in economic growth.
For context, yes. California is the third largest city in the United States?
The largest state in the United States.
Third largest state in the United States.
Oh, the largest state.
The largest?
Yeah, the largest state, yes.
Wow. And that's over 353,000 square kilometers.
Correct.
Nearly half of Nigeria.
Yes.
And you did mention the $30 billion budget for the California State of Transportation.
Yes.
That's like, a budget nearly the size of Nigeria's annual budget.
Annual budget.
So in a sense, you're like a minister of transportation in Nigeria. What does it feel like overseeing, that size of, a ministry? You did mention 42,000 people.
Yeah.
What does it feel like? And what's the weight of your responsibility?
It's significant. There are days and nights, especially when challenges occur, where it can be daunting and sleepless. You have some sleepless nights. some of the toughest moments are when disasters happen, disasters strike. California's a coastal state, so occasionally, sometimes we have major fires that shut down the freeway system or major crashes. We've had floods that impact the transportation system of the state. There was one particular fire that burned down one of the busiest freeways in the state, one of the busiest freeways actually in the entire United States. That the governor and myself and our staff had to be on the ground for several days. So really challenging days. But we also know, our team, that 40,000 plus people, there's a clear recognition that we are the backbone of the economy of the state. And if I were to recommend that if I were to be having a conversation with the minister, by the way, I've had a chance to talk to the Minister of Transportation for this country on a couple of occasions. If I were to say anything to them, I'll try to tell them to keep that in mind. Like a country, a state, a city doesn't reach its heights that it wants to reach without a robust transportation system. That $4.3 trillion economy that I mentioned, it's because of our transport system. Those ports that I mentioned, for example, those seaports, 2 of the busiest seaports in the entire United States are in Los Angeles. And those seaports, 40% of every good that enters America on a container, 40% of them, they come through those ports. And so not only do those ports have to be functional, the rail system that's connected to it and the highway system that's connected to it has to be top-notch as well. So all those supply chains, those networks, have to work well together. We have airports in Los Angeles and San Francisco, rank in the top 10 of the busiest airports in the entire United States. Freeway systems that are very busy, transit systems. We have what we call the Capital Corridor in the San Francisco Bay Area. That inner city rail corridor is the second busiest rail system in the entire country as well. So there's so much that's happening from a transport sector that if it wasn't as strong as it was, not that we don't have problems and issues, but if it wasn't as strong as it was, there's no way in the world California becomes this robust global powerhouse that it's become.
We're going to talk about what we can learn from each other.
Sure.
But before we leave California, I was looking through the details of what has happened with the high-speed. It hasn't tracked. I know there's a variation to the budget. I know, in fact, last year I read that Donald Trump had actually pulled the plug on it because he didn't want to fund it. It was initially $33 billion. Now it's gone as far as maybe between 80 to 120 billion. So what has happened with the high speed? We don't have high speed here, by the way, but we have a blue line, blue and red line here in Lagos here. I think we're working on a green line. So mobility must be mobility.
And Jeffrey, don't forget to add that we have regular challenges with rail derailments.
So, but I wanted to find out what's going on with that high speed, bullet speed train that has not tracked.
I have to commend you, Jeffrey, for doing your homework. All those numbers were spot on what you just said. Look, when you're doing something that's never been done before, you're going to run into hurdles. You're going to run into challenges. And this high-speed rail project that we're building in California is the first one in the Western Hemisphere. So nobody has ever done it. It exists in Asia, it exists in Europe, but nowhere else in North America has anything remotely close to this. And what we're trying to build is a 500-mile system that will connect the 2 biggest economic regions of the state. The Bay Area, that's known for all the technology in Silicon Valley, all the way down to Los Angeles, the entertainment capital probably of the world, and traversing what we call the Central Valley, the biggest agricultural hub.
So it's more inland.
Yes, it's inland.
Okay.
And so when the voters of the state of California had to pass a measure, they had to go to the ballot box and vote to say they want this high-speed rail to happen. They voted for it in 2008. The promise was that this rail system will be open and people riding this high-speed train, 200 miles an hour plus is the goal. They'll be riding it by 2020 from 2008. And we still have yet to be able to get to the place where we have an operational train system. We've run into multiple hurdles. Everything from a very rigid, a very stringent environmental process that we have to go through, unlike in some places like in Asia, for example, in China or probably here, you can just clear land and say, we're going to build. You don't do that there. It's a very litigious, very rigorous process you have to go through when you're building an infrastructure project. And when you're talking 500 miles, that's a lot of pieces of property along the way, including very sensitive environmental areas. So the cost has gone up from $33 billion in 2008 to a more realistic true cost of about 126 to 130 billion today. But what I'll tell you is that despite those challenges, our administration, the Governor Gavin Newsom administration, we've done more to advance that project than ever before, than anybody prior, I would say. The environmental document is now 98% completed. The property acquisition, we call right-of-way acquisition, that needs to be had, that needs to be gathered, same thing, about 99% complete. The amount of jobs created, extensive, 19,000 jobs have been created because of the project. The project needs 92 viaducts and bridges, these massive bridges that's going to go over the freeway.
So, sorry, because of time, so how soon should we expect it to come on stream so that Bukola can train a question?
Sure, 2033. 2033 is what we're expecting now.
All right,
to have it up and running.
Before we leave that particular subject, what can we learn, from the California experience in its construction of this high-speed rail? And I ask against the backdrop of Nigeria's construction of the Abuja-Kaduna rail, which took about 7 years and cost at that time, not now, $1.46 billion.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'll say, that's the biggest lesson that I think we've learned from this, beyond the things like environmental process and property acquisition, all those things, is the commitment has to be genuine from the federal government and all the other state and local governments that are participating in the project. That commitment hasn't been there in this project in the history of the project. Jeffrey mentioned the fact that the current president has taken money away from the project. He took away $4 billion. He took $1 billion away in his prior administration. In his current tenure, he's taken away $3 billion. All those uncertainties created by the lack of consistent funding delays, being able to get a major project done. So, to me, if I were to be advising the president of this country or any governor, the number one thing that I would focus on in being able to revive an economy and focus on an economy would be infrastructure. It would be public infrastructure, highways, bridges, rail, water systems, power. That's what revives economies around the world. China did it. Nigeria can continue to do that here as well. But that commitment, the funding, saying, don't care what else is going on. We know there are other priorities, but we're going to make sure that the dollars or the naira is there to deliver this project and hire people to do it locally. That's one of the most important things that can be done for the country.
That's quite instructive, especially because, some of this funding were borrowed funds from China, and we could go on and on that. But we can't finish this conversation without me asking this bit. You're born in Knoxville to Nigerian immigrants, and that means you're a second-generation Nigerian in America, African-American. Talk to us about your career trajectory and how you have risen to, this prestigious post. Is it easier for a second-generation immigrant to be reintegrated into American society?
Wow, that's a complicated question. Look, it's been for me a lot of faith in family. My parents, Dr. Ademola and Moshun Omishakin, they sacrificed a lot for 4 kids. We were born in the U.S. but raised here. I came to Nigeria when I was 4 years old. I lived here till I was about 14. I went to high school in Ibadan, to a government college in Ibadan, and then they moved us back to the U.S. And I had to try to assimilate. I had a Nigerian accent, Nigerian-British accent, and grown up in the southern part of the United States where, they're not used to a lot of foreign, people. The places where I lived, in Tennessee and Mississippi. It's not like New York or L.A. And, I would walk in a room and I would say something and people would start laughing like, where they get the African boy from? So I went through a lot, trying to adjust to the culture, but my parents stressed education, just like most Nigerian parents around the world and here, stressed education. And that's been the thing for me is I focused on that very intently all the way to, they said you have to get a doctorate degree, typical Nigerian parents, all the way to getting a doctorate degree. And my career is just, I couldn't have predicted it. To be in charge and responsible for one of the largest government organizations in the U.S., I never would have said something like that would have happened. Living in Ibadan, not too far away from here, going to government college.
Right.
There's going to be no way I'd be able to predict something like that. But a lot of amazing people have supported me beyond family. And again, the success I have today is because of a tremendous team that's around me as well.
We wish we can stay with you for as long as possible. I wanted a three-way advisory for Lagos, Nigeria, and Africa and transportation, but my director is on my ears. But thanks for coming through. I know you're going to turn 50 next.
You're not supposed to be telling people that.
So happy birthday in arrears, by the way. And now you talked about growing up in white neighborhood. At least California is a lot better. At least more Hispanic and second black.
More diverse.
Yeah, more diverse than this. Thank you so much for making Nigeria proud. One last thought from you?
Yes, by the way.
10 seconds?
Yeah, I'm here for Afro Trade. Check out Afro Trade 2026. President Obasanjo is going to be a part of the event as well. I'm looking forward to participating in Afro Trade here at Eco Hotel tomorrow.
Oh, fantastic. So you're going to be speaking?
I'll be speaking, yes, along with former President Obasanjo and Abike Dabiri.
Nidcom boss.
Yes.
I can give you 30 more seconds. What is it all about?
It's about how the African economy can be revived through trade, through business development. Is essentially the focus of this. Infrastructure is also a big part of the discussion. They're expecting more than 3,000 people to attend this event.
Fantastic thought. Because we need those barriers to be broken. That's why I wanted that three-way advisory, because transportation and commuting and even moving around Africa is limited by all of the visa encumbrances that we feel. But almost thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you so much.
Adetokunbo Omishakin, known as Toks, Secretary of Transportation from the state of California, United States. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I hope you've learned a thing or two. The conversation continues in the later part of the day in all our programs. Sunrise Daily is up next. I'm Jeffrey Zama. Bye-bye.
And speaking of learning, wherever you are from, your dreams are valid. I guess this last segment tells you that. We'll be back again tomorrow. I am Bukola Koka. Bye for now.